be talking about eating behaviors and food choices. So I would not be quoting much of studies. What I'll be talking about is most from the internet available, and it is all general knowledge. Most of you know about it. So I will begin with a question which we often tell our patients, ask our patients when we have advised them weight loss, and they come back after a few months with the same weight or even higher weight. So we ask, why did you not reduce weight? And most of the time, the patient would answer that I have no time to exercise. I have pain in my knees, so I can't walk. There are no parks around. I have started exercising, but the weight is not coming down. I already do a lot of exercise, and I've got lots of stress in my family. I've got job tension, family problems. I have thyroid. I was on lots of antibiotics and steroids, so weight did not come down. So they would talk about everything, but no one would actually talk about diet. No one would say that I am eating so much and I have not been able to cut down on my diet. So what are the factors which make you obese? Dr. Shalimar just spoke about polygenic gene theory. And then your sedentary habits are responsible for making you obese. Your metabolism are responsible for making you obese. But the most important thing is your food. So how much you eat, what do you eat, when you eat, are the most important factors which lead to obesity and which lead to difficulty in reducing our weight. So talking about eating behaviors. So why do we eat food? So we eat food mainly for 3 reasons. One is to survive. So this is called homeostatic eating response. So we eat because we have to survive, we have to carry out our daily activities, we have to give energy for our basic metabolic needs, basic metabolic requirement. But other reasons why we eat one is called hedonic eating. When we eat for the pleasure of food, we are not eating for survival, but we are eating because the food is so tasty. Food looks so tasty, it has got very good taste, texture, and the variety of the food. And the other third reason why we eat is emotional eating. When we are depressed, when we are anxious, and then we start eating more, that is called emotional eating. So what is hedonic eating? When we eat for actually pleasure, it is driven by a desire for very highly palatable foods, which are highly processed. They have got high fat and sugar content or salt. And these actually food activate our brain's reward center, which I'll come to a bit later, these reward centers release dopamine, and this dopamine is a pleasure hormone. And then repeated exposure to this highly palatable food actually make us addicted towards it. And then we keep on chasing these foods. And this leads to overconsumption of these calorie-dense food and nutrient-poor foods. So when you are waiting for your flight and you see at the airport lounge, you see a lot of good food there in the food outlet, and then you grab the food even though you just had your lunch at your home, but you still eat it. Or when there's delicious food or pastry kept in your refrigerator, and even though you have had your lunch or dinner, but you open your refrigerator and eat. This is all hedonic eating. The second aspect is emotional eating. When we consume food because we are depressed, we are sad, we are anxious, or we are getting bored. And so again we tend to eat, and again we tend to eat the food which gives our self-comfort. And that time also we tend to eat much larger food. And then there's emotional eating cycle. So something bad happens to you, you are depressed for some reason, you've had a breakup or something, and then you have an overwhelming desire to eat. And that urge to eat will make you eat more, and then you again start feeling guilty, and then this cycle goes on. So there have been many scientific studies on this emotional eating cycle. Then apart from the 3 types of eating I just mentioned, then there's one type of eating which is due to cultural norms. So we all eat due to festivals. We have Merry Christmas. Without cake, there's no Merry Christmas. Without gujiyas, there's no Holi or Diwali sweets. And then Eid. So we eat because of our cultural traditions, and these cultural norms also actually jeopardize our dieting or diet behavior. And then there's After every grand weddings day, it is followed by grand parties. So we eat in these parties. And even while watching movies, it's been a common thing that we grab a huge tub of popcorn, and then it's become cultural, it's become a social obligation now. So there are two types of obesity. One is the metabolic obesity, which occurs because of our faulty metabolism and which raises our set point body weight. But hedonic obesity is when we are eating because of pleasure, and then because of that pleasure, we tend to gain weight. Coming to other food choices. So what foods do we choose to eat? So here's a trade secret. If you are planning to start a food chain, then start a food chain on junk food. For example, I'll give you here. The Burger King was started about 40 or 50 years ago, and at present they are located in at least 20,000 locations all over the world. At the same time, Whole Food Market was started. It was a healthy food chain, and it could not expand more than 500 locations in same duration of time. So, and this is one of the McDonald's ad, that free fries, you'll get free fries. So just add little more of money and you'll get double the amount of calories. So this is how these food chains or food restaurants, they target. So what they are targeting the reward center of our brain. So when we eat delicious meal, or when we get praise for anything, for many other reasons, there's an area called ventral tegmental area, which releases dopamine. This is the reward center. And that dopamine actually travels a little bit distance, and it reaches a place that's called nucleus accumbens, and it has got two functions. It gives us pleasure. So be it praise for something, be it anything like food or anything, or even alcohol. So we get pleasure from it. And the second thing, which it gives us motivation to seek similar rewards in future. And this leads to addiction. So overactivation of this reward system leads to addiction. It can be addiction of drugs, alcohol. It can be addiction of compulsive behavior, even gambling, or eating disorder, and we tend to eat more. Then there's brain reward system gets hijacked, and then we have strong cravings for all this, and we have lack of control of this behavior. In 1954, the research was done on reward center on animals. Actually, they trapped a little mouse in this, and they fit an electrode to its brain. So whenever the mouse pressed this electrode, his brain got stimulated and he felt gratified. He had pleasure. So the rat continuously kept on pressing these levers, and it stopped only when it was fully exhausted. And when similar experiments were done on humans, they got similar results. So rats and humans are similar. So whenever we get reward, and even though the rewards have got no survival value, but we keep on seeking those rewards. So food, and now there's ample evidence that fat-rich diet or carbohydrate-rich diet actually also impacts our reward center of the brain. So all this we get lots of reward, the dopamine is released, and we tend to get addicted towards this food. And so we choose food which gives us more reward. So we would choose pizza rather than a healthy plate of salad. And even in our mobiles, we have obesogenic environment. So when we are browsing our mobiles, we see Swiggy, we see Zomato, and we see all the food which can give us rewards. So because of this, we tend to eat more. We tend to eat for these hedonic pleasures. Coming to the third aspect, that is satiety. As you know, once we have started, when we eat food, then the signal comes to us that now we have to stop. This is called as satiety. And there's a satiety cascade which begins even before when we have started eating food. So I have made this cartoon simplified. So the first part of satiety cascade begins with the meal quality, like how tasty the food is. So if the food looks very tasty, it will make us feel much more hungrier. The second satiety cascade, or the step of the satiety cascade, comes when it tells us when to stop eating. So when our stomach is full because of the stretch receptors, or certain hormones are released from the duodenum which ask us to stop eating. And the third is when to grab the next meal. So it depends on what kind of meal we have taken, and also on certain hormones like leptin or insulin, which decides when to take the next meal. And in people who are obese, all these mechanisms may be disturbed. And so satiety stimulus also depends on the type of food which we eat. So if we are eating food like donuts or pizza, we feel less satiated. And when we eat food which are like high in fiber content or protein content, we feel satiety much earlier. And there have been experiments where they compared people who ate food with high protein content compared to those who ate pasta. And after they had these food which was of equal calorie, they end up eating much more calories because they felt less satiated when they ate pasta or this kind of food. So take-home points: our eating habits, like the type of food, what we eat, how we eat, is the most important factor for obesity. And our brain's reward center gets overactivated with hedonic eating or emotional eating, and which leads to addiction and craving. And our obesogenic environment and our brain's rewards center governs our food choices, what we eat, and this is a vicious cycle. And it is coupled with the dysfunctional of the satiety signal. So these are the problems which occur, and one possible solution can be mindful eating, and how we eat, how we choose to eat, and how we should take time in chewing food, and taking time in actually appreciating what we are eating is one of the possible solutions, which I'll leave it to you. Thank you for your patient hearing.